I like World of Warcraft. For over 20 years, it has done one of the easiest and most unthankful, unrewarding jobs ever. Protected my virginity and gave me a place to connect with people, call a home, have good stories and gameplay and...
Wait, what are you doing, man? You're giving everything away in just the intro.
You are correct, handsome content creator, of course. With midnight just around the corner, you may have been debating getting the Epic Edition, or even if it's worth coming back. Although at the end of the day, it can be a subjective matter since everyone enjoys different aspects of the game. I will still give you the 5 top reasons we believe it's worth playing midnight, so strap in. Number 1. Although coming in 11.2.7 in an early access stage, the new housing system will require you own Midnight ahead of time. Now listen, content creators have a tendency to overhype and dramatize a lot of stuff since at the end of the day, we are making entertaining, allegedly, videos for you to enjoy. We are the poor man performers. And when I say housing almost brought me to tears, you might not believe me since I look like such a stoic, manly man. So then maybe if I tell you a personal story, you might come to understand why this reason is an emotional one to come back to WoW. I was an awkward teenager.
Lol, you too? No shit, Sherlock, so were we. Welcome to the club, jackass.
Let me guess, your mom brought you snacks when you were gaming?
The age of online friends.
So naturally, I gravitated towards a fantasy world to escape stuff in real life. I was a fan of Tolkien and Warcraft settings and felt that I could remake myself into whatever character I wanted. WoW was a story I could play in my head when I had a rough day, when I felt I didn't really belong with my friends' group or simply needed a place for my mind to go to. WoW made me feel like through effort and dedication, I can actually achieve my goals. I can level to max, I can beat a raid boss, I can take 10 allies and smash the opposing faction. I could actually do things. To me, it was a second home, a safe place to relax and get away from the bullshit of real life. Now I'm born in the 90s, it's 2026, 2026 minus 1990. No, so I was in, it's November now. I was born October 30, the time is, oh my god, I'm old! I don't have these feelings anymore, and the reasons I play WoW has changed over the years, but logging into the housing system and flying through the neighborhood brought those memories back, and although I'm not one for nostalgia, walking through the barren islands reminded me of the orc starting area, which was the signal of a start of an adventure 20-some years ago. WoW has changed over the years, some for better, some for worse, but having my own home in it, as meta as it sounds, really nails in the fact that our home is where our heart is. 20 years of World of Warcraft just came back to me every time I see this. Now, my sappy story aside, housing is an actual amazing system, and I know a lot of cool stuff coming to WoW usually comes out broken or poorly implemented, but it does feel they actually gave it their all for this one. And if you have been a long-time WoW player, trying this one thing should at least be definitely on your bucket list. Number 2. As cliche and predictable as it may be, the new goodies for an expansion are actually good reasons to come back, and that still applies to the Devourer Demon Hunter. If you have never played Demon Hunter before because, I don't know, it sounded too difficult, was way too much movement, the class fantasy wasn't appealing, or any other reason, allow me to maybe change your mind. Class flavor and fantasy are indeed subjective, but you cannot argue that demon hunters aren't cool. Well, they were in Legion when they literally used fel and demonic power to beat fel practitioners and demons. So how is it not fitting to do the same with the Void? These guys are literally the martyrs of WoW. They take the wildest paths towards securing the future of Azeroth, all the way to consuming Void power to harness new strength. How is that not cool? Past that, the gameplay is incredibly simple, yet has room for skill expression because I know there are two kinds of players right now that yell so loudly I won't be able to hear my own thoughts if I wasn't deaf already. I'm not, but the constant bickering between people wanting complex specs and those wanting simple specs has been grating at my sanity for some months now. The Devourer playstyle is simple. You generate fury and souls with your basic range abilities and can also be casted while moving, and you spend your fury on big void rays for turbo damage, and when you have enough souls, you shift into your meta form and launch collapsing stars with those souls as resource. That's literally it. You can argue the spec has as few as 4 buttons. Consume to break souls apart and generate fury, reap to store those souls and deal damage, void ray to eat fury for more damage and more souls, and your metas button is also your collapsing star button. You can dive deeper into the spec with a melee playstyle that adds Void Blade, the Hunt, and Vengeful Retreat on your bars for more dynamic gameplay and a more involved rotation, but you don't have to. Also, that does significantly less damage right now on beta, so who knows. Devourer is literally the embodiment of the new class design philosophy. Definitely worth a try even for a dungeon or a raid boss. Number 3, classes are getting pruned. Again, this can be a controversial change for a long-time player and an endgame veteran, but it was something that needed to happen. The game became way too automated through add-ons and scripts and data sheets to the point where you would have to ask if you were even playing a video game at the end of the day. Sure, not all pruned classes are winners, and that just might be my personal take, but there is a major factor at play here that I, as a person who enjoys complexity, depth, and skill expression, have come to really appreciate with Midnight. With the classes being easier to play, your focus shifts from your action bars or WeakAuras to the actual world around you. This is one of the things that pulled people into WoW in the first place. The world. It's hard to see the world when your eyes are glued to color-coded arrows on your screen telling you where to and when to move. Fascinating gameplay, you guys. With all specs being more approachable, you can now try that elemental shaman you always wanted, but realized, fuck, that's a lot of buttons. Not anymore, there aren't. With everything changing around warbands and specs having a lower barrier of entry, WoW hasn't been more alt-friendly before. It will be less about optimizing that perfect rotation with the right global being spent at the right 1.5 to 1.2 second interval, and more about playing a character in a world of adventures, monsters, cities, and heroes. Number 4. Bye-bye add-ons. This is yet another controversial point to make, but let me clarify a few things that are important for context, yet people still ignore them despite them being made public multiple times by the devs. Add-ons are not deleted. In Midnight, add-ons that read real-time combat events will be blocked by the client, so that information can be delivered to you from the actual game UI. This means add-ons like WeakAuras that track mechanics and assign people to do certain things in fractions of a second will no longer work that way. No more heavy loading packs of hundreds of WeakAuras for that raid that eats up a lot of your processing power, which is already poorly utilized by the game client. Add-ons that do not interact with real-time combat events, add-ons that customize the look of your UI, add-ons that offer a more streamlined access to databases of collections, professions, and such will not be affected. Now, whether or not the add-on creators still feel it rewarding to develop and support these is a different matter, but the main idea is that now nobody can make you get add-ons to play the game, and you can just use them to customize the look of your gameplay experience instead, which also has been something that people have been doing for years anyway. With this change comes combat context. It's no secret that WoW combat went overboard with the release of the War Within, which has been a growing process since likely Battle for Azeroth. The complexity of mechanics has been proportional to the ingenuity of combat reading add-ons to be able to actually give players a sense of a challenge. Now, with those add-ons not working anymore in that manner, the devs took their time to develop more intuitive mechanics that make sense and you can figure out what is happening by just actually looking at the big boss and what it's doing to the combat zone. At least that's the intent, and it should be possible to make more people experience endgame content without gating them behind an app that is used to download some add-ons that further need to be set up in-game to your personal UI, which you would have to respond to when a boss starts a cast, instead of just simply playing the damn game. A world where you can download World of Warcraft, log in, and start playing. What a concept! Number 5. Last but not least, this is a more personal point and something I'm always looking at when a new expansion is launching: the return to Azeroth effect. I don't know about you, but as much as I like expanding stories and stakes for our heroes to face, I'm kind of over new planets, otherworldly races that look more like aliens than believable denizens of our planet, and stories with stakes so outrageous that it is hard to relate to anything anymore. The whole vibe with Midnight is coming home. Literally with the housing, but also figuratively with reinvigorating old and memorable zones. Eversong Woods has been completely remade to encompass the old Ghostlands as well, and it looks like an actual zone in World of Warcraft in 2026 and reminds me even more of those Warcraft 3 missions when Arthas was barreling down Silvermoon. And of course, the capital city is, I dare say, the first actual city that feels like an actual city. So far, all of the past player hubs felt like towns with large buildings, an inn, a bank, an auction house, and a few background doodad houses as much as the budget allowed. But Silvermoon feels like an actual fantasy city, the first one in 20 years I actually got lost in. I'm not goddamn kidding. Multiple times I had to fly back up into the air, look at my city, check the map, and then fly down to where I needed to go. I actually issue a challenge when the city becomes habitable. Hop on a ground mount and try to find your way through it. Time your experience on a stopwatch and let's see how long it takes before you give up and start flying over it again. This doesn't sound like a gameplay feature to pay money for, but try to actually think about what I'm really saying right now. An actual city that doesn't feel like a budget Temu village, that breathes more credibility upon the world that we are inhabiting, because we are in a world of Warcraft and I am supposed to feel like it's alive and I care for it. But for me, the magnus opus has to be the Zulamon zone. Going into this zone just gives you the feel of troll culture, of shamanism and druidism, Loa, high forests, caves, bears, animals, real stuff that should belong in a fantasy game that we have lost because we've been traveling through planets for all of these years. This is by far my favorite zone, and I actually felt like I was coming back to WoW, to Warcraft, to where I have been over 20 years ago when I first saw my first bear in the first forest of WoW. This is dope. Maybe the journey back to Azeroth won't be final with just Midnight, but it's the best step we took so far, and if any of the things I mentioned apply to you, then you will not be disappointed with the expansion, at least at first. But what about those easy specs I mentioned? Which one should you play? Thankfully, some handsome content creators already made a video for you, going over the 5 most likely to pop on your radar right here.